We discussed about software development life cycle, software testing life cycle, then defect, and then severity, priority, severity levels, priority levels, test case development, how to write the test cases, when do we call it like a defect. These are the things which we have discussed, and we'll try to cover some more concepts today. We'll talk about black box testing, white box testing, gray box testing. Okay, where is the material? Different types of testing we are going to discuss today, and then we'll go to the quiz. The first one is black box testing. Black box means you don't know the internal implementation of the application or internal functionalities or business logics. As a end user, as a normal user, whatever you can see, that is the information you got it. Testing the application without knowing the internal implementation is called black box testing. Let us talk about alphamutual.com itself. This is a website. I have provided you the credentials of this account. Okay. In case if I have not provided you these login credentials, will you be aware of the functionality like transfer funds, view accounts, all those things? In case if you don't know the credentials, will you be aware or not? If I don't provide the credentials. That's it. You will not be aware. So unless you know the internal implementation, you cannot test the internal functionality. So testing the application without knowing the internal implementation or business logic or design, it can be anything. Okay. So a software engineer working in a company knows many things compared to a person outside of the software company. Similarly, in the project as well. If you don't know the internal implementation and if you are asked to test the application, that is called black box testing. Even in security testing also will the same concepts will come black box penetration testing. So secure testing you are going to perform without knowing the internal implementation. For example, as a hacker, you want to hack some website alphamutual.com. There are two persons. One is a hacker outside of the organization. One more person is a developer, not a developer. Assume like security engineer, but he works for this alphamutual.com. Who knows the internal implementation, security engineer or hacker? Who will be aware of the internal functionality? Outside hacker or internal security engineer? So it is very clear. Security engineer knows the application functionality, but the hacker, he doesn't know the internal implementation because he just knows the website. So black box testing is a similar kind. Even security engineer also can perform the black box testing. So testing the application without knowing the internal implementation is called black box testing. Very simple and straightforward definition. It will be asked in the interviews. What is meant by white box testing? Testing the application with the knowledge about the internal implementation or the business flow or the design. This is called white box testing. What is meant by gray box testing? Anyone who wants to answer this question? Reply in the chat window. What is meant by gray box testing? simple definition is it is a combination of both black box and white box. Or else you can say like you are going to test the internal, you are going to test the application by knowing the internal implementation details. Along with that, you utilize those knowledge for doing the black box penetration test, black box testing effectively. Okay. Effective black box testing by knowing the internal implementation details. Or combination of black box and white box testing is called gray box testing. That's called gray box testing. What is manual testing then? Anyone who wants to guess an answer? How these testings work in real time? This is what I told you. We go to the website, you test the application without knowing the internal implementation, that is called black box. And or else you got the credentials of JSmith and demo 1234. You have access to other pages. You have access to other pages like transfer funds, all those testing we perform, that is white box. Combination is called gray box. Manual testing means entire testing is done by manual process by humans without the use of any tools. Testing done by the humans without the dependency on the tools. This is called manual testing. Very simple. Okay. What is the objective of testing? Why do we do testing? Objective of testing is to find defects. Okay. This objective is lacking by the developers. Developers cannot have that mindset. Developers always try to develop or design the code, develop the functionality. They will not have the objective of finding the defects. Okay. Remember, manual testing we call it defects, secure testing we call it vulnerabilities. What do you mean by automation testing? Testing of the application with the help of the tools. Name one tool which can be used for automation. Selenium, Tosca, QTP. QTP is very old. Jira is not an automation tool. JMeter is a performance testing tool. Okay, more oftenly for web-based applications, we use Selenium. Java plus Selenium, C# plus Selenium, Python plus Selenium. ETL is an automation tool, but it is used for some specific purpose. ETL, extract, load, and process. That's what the ETL does. Okay, you need to know the SQL database queries concepts if you want to work on the ETL. Robotic process automation, that is like based on the automation, I mean to say artificial intelligence concepts, RPA is used. Fair enough. Let us move on to the further concepts. Just now we discussed the common types of testing. There are like lot many types of testing. Out of the 30 or 40 are important ones. We'll discuss that later. Now let us talk about different levels of testing. Okay. All of you know software testing, software development life cycle. So the application has to be developed first in the development phase. Then testers will do the functional testing, and then it will go to the customers. This much you are already clear, right? However, we do different kinds of testing across these SDLC levels, different levels of testing we call. So developers also do some testing that is called unit testing. Okay. Unit testing means that will be done in the code level. Remember, unit testing is done in the code level. We test small piece of code, okay, or small units of code by the developers to check if their code is working correctly or not. This will be done in the development phase. This is called unit testing. Who does the unit testing? Developers or testers? So unit testing is done by the developers. The next one, assume like developers develop the code. It will not be like a single developer. There will be group. I mean to say, like there will be a team, development team, 5 members, 7 members. They'll be working on that some functionality. Before they give the functionality to the tester, they integrate all these modules or components, right? And they give it to the tester. The tester has to do build acceptance testing. What is mean by build acceptance testing? You have developed the test cases, right, for doing the testing. How many test cases will be there? Test scenarios approximately for a banking application. Approximately for a banking application. Can I say like for login, we have 10 scenarios, transfer funds 10 scenarios, view account 10 scenarios, sign up 10 scenarios. Total 40 scenarios are there. So test cases will be around 80. Assume like for each scenario, you develop some negative test cases, positive test cases, altogether 80 to 100. 100 test cases are there. And they give you one build. Build means nothing but working software you can consider, not working software. Basically, the developers will give the application for you for testing. The entire files along with any kind of database changes altogether can be considered as a build. Out. So your job is to test all 100 test cases. Okay. So before you test all these 100 test cases, you will check whether that build given by the developer can be considered for testing or not. What does it mean? It can be considered for testing or not? Think like login is working, login is not working. You are giving valid username and valid password. Valid password. It says incorrect username and password. That issue is you are facing. Can you test all the 100 test cases now? You got the application from the developers and you tested the valid case, valid username and valid password. It is showing like invalid username. Is it possible to test all the 100 test cases now? Not possible because it is blocking all the other test cases. You cannot proceed further testing. So as part of build acceptance testing, will you fail the build or will you pass the build? Passing the build means it can be taken by the QA for testing. Failing means you have to return it to the developer saying like, we cannot test this build. Very easy and straightforward. That's it now. You got a car and you are not able to start the engine. What do? Return it. We cannot test the mileage, we cannot test the speed unless it is getting started. The same thing here. So you have to fail the build. Understand? So any kind of critical scenarios, critical functionalities failures, you have to fail the build. Don't accept the build. These kind of questions will be asked in the interviews for manual testing. Okay, you fail the build first time, and out of 5 developers, 1 developer is working on the login. He come to know like he did some mistake in the code. He fixed it. Again, he will give the build 2. First one is build 1. Again, build 2 has given to the testers. We test some major functionality as part of build acceptance testing. Like first, all positive cases, we test 5 scenarios. Log into the application, transfer funds, view account, sign off. 4 test cases I do, and in case if these 4 are working, I consider this build, I can consider like build acceptance test passed. Then we'll continue for remaining 100 test cases. That's what called build acceptance test cases. All the 100 test cases for the entire application, you are going to test it, right? Maybe like assume like 3 testers are there, they have to test on the functionality of the application. That is called functional testing. Testing the application for all the functionalities that has been implemented is called functional testing. Testing the application to check if the major functionality is working or not, so that the build can be accepted. That is called build acceptance testing. Integration testing. In functionality testing, I'll be working on the login, and Bhavani is working on the transfer funds. Sarvesh is working on the sign off, and one more person is working on the contact support. One more person is working on the advertisement links. Like that, everyone will be working on some other functionality independently. But there are 2 or 3 servers. One functionality is deployed in one server 1. Second functionality is there only in server 2. But in case of integration testing, we have to integrate all the modules and do the testing. That is called integration testing. Okay. Testing the application by integrating 2 or more modules is called integration testing. This is the definition. System testing. What do you mean by system testing? You did the testing. Let me show you a picture. Yeah, here it is. Developers have their own environment for doing the testing as well. They develop the code and check whether it works or not. Once the development is done, once they check if everything is working, they give the build to the testers. Testers individually, they test the application. But before giving it to the deployment, they try to deploy this application in a production-like environment. Means it is not exactly like production, but it will be like almost same settings will be there. That can be considered as integration environment, INTG, or staging environment, or DRT environment. Remember these terms: integration environment, staging environment, DRT environment. Testing environment means you can test the application, that is meant for testing. Production environment means real customers will be there. Integration, staging, or DRT means in between the testing and the production. It will be similar to the production, but real customers will not be there. So we have to do the testing and we have to do the system testing in integration environment or staging environment. Okay. In all the environments, website can be launched. For example, think like Facebook is application. I'll have a website called dev.facebook.com. One more environment is an testing environment, qa.facebook.com. And integration environment for one more different environment, intg.facebook.com. For production, what will be the domain? What will be the website? Can anyone tell me? We have done the testing in development phase, testing phase, integration phase. Once we release the application to the production, what will be the website for the Facebook? Is it prod.facebook.com or facebook.com? What is your answer? Production is like live environment. Already you are working on the live environment. This is facebook.com. That's it. Okay. Understood? Before that, we cannot use facebook.com internally. That is the reason we try to differentiate with some domains. QA is used for testing by the testers. dev.facebook.com is used by the developers. If you are registering one account in production, that account will not be there in the QA. This uses a different database, web server. This one uses a different database, different web server, different application. Production has a different setup, and integration has a different setup, and even development has a different setup. Okay, fair enough. This is all about different levels of testing. Okay, once the system testing is done, then user acceptance testing. User acceptance means if the application has any clients or end users, they check like whether the application is working properly or not. So assume like we did some changes. It can be a client or it can be a end user. You need to validate whether the application is working correctly or not. Client acceptance testing, user acceptance testing, this is called. Okay, fair enough. These are the different levels of testing. Along with these different levels of testing, we have few more types of testing we are going to discuss in the next session. Shall we take the quiz now? We have got another 10 minutes. 9:06, 9:16 or 9:20. Let us see what are the things you have learned so far on manual testing. Try to revise the concepts from here for 2 minutes. I covered SDL. This week we have discussed software development lifecycle, software testing lifecycle, quality, why is the testing needed, different levels of testing, different types of testing, different levels of testing. That's it. Okay, how to develop the test case. 2 minutes, we'll start the quiz. For manual testing, there will not be any labs. Whatever the practicals we are doing, no, testing the pen, testing the car, those are the labs for manual testing. For automation, we'll have the lab setup. Java Selenium, we need to set up the Java. Eclipse, Java, we need to install. Eclipse, we need to install. And Selenium WebDriver, we need to set up. So for automation, you'll have a lab setup. After manual testing, we'll start the Selenium classes, Java Selenium. Okay, guys, let us start the quiz. Reply only to me, don't reply to all. List the phases of software development life cycle in sequence. The phases of software development life cycle. We have discussed lot many times, be it cyber security or manual testing. SDLC is very important. We start with planning, then requirement gathering and analysis, design, develop, test, deploy, then support and maintenance. Reply only to me, don't reply to all. Okay, fine. Next question. List the phases of software testing life cycle. List the phases of software testing life cycle. We start with requirements review, right? If you want to develop the test cases, first you need to go through the requirements. Then plan that, do the test planning. Test planning in the sense, what are the different features are there and what kind of test scenarios you get. All those things you can discuss in the test plan and how long it is going to take, who is going to work on what, all those things. Once everything is done, then you work on the test case development. Means you have to write the test cases. Once you write the test cases, you see which environment is available for testing. Test lab, qa.facebook.com or qa1.facebook.com, which environment you want to take, or staging.facebook.com. So test lab, you decide it. Then test execution. That's it. Test cases are there. You mark the test case as pass or fail after the execution. And finally, you do the reporting. Okay, out of 100, 80 test cases passed and 20 failed. And give the report, then do the test cycle closure. That's it. It's called software testing life cycle. Cost of the defect. Cost of fixing the defect is more in production compared to pre-production. Is it true or false? Cost of fixing the defect is more in production compared to pre-production. You have to assume like a similar defect if it is if it is found in production versus and if it is found in the testing phase. If it is found in the production, we have to recall, we have to spend amount and time for the technical support team, fines, all those, and customers impact, customers trust, business. Definitely, this statement is true. Okay. Identify security defects from this list. We discussed about the difference between manual testing, secure testing, and functional testing. What is the security defect in this? One or more? Security defects, C and E. You should know what is meant by manual testing and secure testing and performance testing. The first one, log into the application, taking a lot of time and application is very slow. Is this functional or performance or security? Option A. Whenever you mention like application is not performing good, it is performance issue. View account is disabled in the application after login. This is a functional issue. Option C is like end user is able to list all the customer details by running some script. This is a security issue. Truncated images found in the home page means there is some image overlap. Is this functional or performance or security? Option D. It is very clear. It is performance, sorry, functional issue. Guys. Okay. The last one, end user is successfully able to bypass login. That is a security issue. So the correct answers are C and E. Next question. Severity talks about the extent how the functionality has been affected or impacted. Is it true or false? Severe. When do you say something is severe? If that functionality is not working properly. Okay. It is about the extent or degree of the extent how the functionality has been affected. The statement is true. List all severity levels for a defect. Assume like you want to set a severity for a defect. What are the different severity levels we discussed so far? The list of severity levels are critical, high, medium, low. That's what the severity we set. Okay. Or in some applications, some tools we see even very high, high, medium, low. The next question. Priority talks about urgency of fixing the defect. That's correct. The question is, what is the highest priority for a defect in the list? Which is the highest priority? P1 or P2 or P3 or P4 or P5? Which has to be fixed in priority? I am expecting the answer either as P1 or P5. If you are saying between that, you are not understanding the question. What is the highest priority? Priority talks about fixing the how soon we can fix the defect. Okay. So if we are following some convention, P1 to P5, the highest priority will be P1. Okay. When we start from P1, we go for P5. P5 being the lowest priority. P1 highest priority, P2 is little below that. What all does the test case consist of? Try to list down all the things that will be there in the test case. Last 30 seconds. Test case consists of test case ID, title, description, preconditions, test steps, expected results, priority. Right? These are the things that will be there in the test case. Title, description, test steps, preconditions or prerequisite, expected results, and what is the priority of the test case. Next question. What is meant by defect? You can give the definition. Functionality not as expected, difference between expected functionality versus actual functionality, loophole, error, bug, deviation from the actual functionality, deviation from the expected functionality, So yes, these are all things can be considered as a defect. Okay, you should know what exactly, when do we call it like a defect. If there is any deviation from the expected functionality, or if there is any deviation from the specifications or the requirements, then we call it like a defect. Deviation between any kind of difference between expected results and actual results, any deviation from the specifications or requirements. If the application is not meeting the expectations, okay, all these things can be considered as a defect. The last one, what is lacking from the developers when you compare with the tester or QA? That is a question. What is something that developers cannot have it and testers have it? Developers will develop the features. They'll not have the mindset or objective of finding the defects. Okay, always developers will be working, one person will work on only one module, other person works on module 2, the third person works on module 3. But whereas a tester, he thinks from the application perspective, and he has the objective of finding the defects. Always his intention is to find the defects. So that's the reason that kind of objective developers will not have it. Okay, that is also, you can reply to all and then post your score, and along with your score give your attendance for today, your name and location. Out of 10, what is your score? Anything with 7 and above is good. 7 and 7 above is good. And also post your name and location for attendance today. Okay, guys, thank you so much. We'll have our next session on Monday. No session on Saturday and Sunday. There will be a cloud security session that is for advanced training, especially for people who has 4 years, 5 years of experience. Cloud security and certification, that is in the weekends. And we'll have the evening batch of cyber security. That will be like a repetition. Whatever you have learned in the first 1 hour, 7:30 to 8:30 lab setup, the same thing will be repeated in the evening batch. So if you have already attended, no need to attend in the evening batch. That is like 30-35 members will attend that. If you are attending both the sessions like cyber security and manual testing, try to have the lab setup done it tomorrow. Okay, you can come for the lab setup tomorrow, and even you can come for resume preparation or pay slips or any kind of queries tomorrow from 9 to 1 o'clock sharp. That's it. Okay, fine, guys. Just message me in advance so that I can plan whom to reach out tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye. Today I'll be busy. I'm occupied with a lot of other office related stuff. So try to get back to me over SMS or WhatsApp or message. Okay.